हेलो टेस्टिंग सही है क्या हो गया एक दो सिस्टम को ऑफ करके ऑफ कर दूं मैं यहाँ से करता हूँ किसी की नेटवर्क रखी हुई उन्होंने क्या किया नहीं उसका तो इधर से को ताल्लुक है सॉरी यार वो I just came for Juma from the night system and there's like this like it doesn't plug in there's so much static as soon as I turn on the speaker system ये जो टावर है इसमें कुछ हुआ क्योंकि टावर हिला हुआ लग रहा है तो सीन था कि कुछ it's just making that static noise so loud that I had to turn it off basically मैं समझ आता कि शायद उससे कहीं कोई वायर चला रहेगा जैसे ना sometimes when you have the speaker on and it's just laying there and it starts making that noise that's what it's doing It probably does because that's what's when I turn on the mic or if I don't turn on the mic I just turn on the system and I turn the volume up a little bit up it's just blasting it's like so much static in it so I turn volume बिल्कुल on नहीं कर पा रहा yeah there's also a mic that I can use so I have that mic أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء مع عداوة بالفناء والعدم كما قال الإنسان كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه معاد ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة خير يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شر يره نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرق وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى وقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الدين عند الله الإسلام صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Can you turn up the volume a little bit? Sorry for the technical difficulties. I think the sound is a little bit low. Up a little. Okay. Sound may be a little bit low to our live audiences, but the speaker is making a noise over here. But anyway, inshallah. The ayat that I recited before I begin, I'd like to advise myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. The verse that I recited is from Surah Al-Imran, ayat number 19, which I had recited last Friday as well. And while discussing it, we talked about the beginning of the month of Muharram al-Haram and some of the duties that we have as far as this month is concerned, especially in these unprecedented conditions that we are going through this pandemic, where a lot of centers are either doing absolutely virtual program with no physical presence. Some are doing partial presence. Some are, doing other ways. So with that said, inshallah, these are tough times, and hopefully we'll get over it. And this year's Muharram, at least first Ashra, will be done with these conditions. And but that does not mean that we should not commemorate. That does not mean that we should say, well, if I can't go to a masjid or Imam Barga to, attend the majlis in person, or I can't take part in Marsiya and Noha, that means I'm not going to do anything. No. However means you have available. And I tell you that because it seems weird, because you are so used to doing things in this way. I have visited communities in North America where there are only few families, there's no center, and those who are so lucky to have a speaker or zakir come to their congregation. All these years they've been used to putting it on a live TV or just running it from the YouTube and having a few families gather in the house, in their basement, and doing azan in that way. So you are lucky in the sense that for the past however many years that you've been in this country, you never had to go to those extents. If you had, of course, traveled during the month of Muharram al-Haram in certain remote areas, you would know how it feels. So from that aspect, feel yourself to be blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having given you this opportunity that you've been able to commemorate Azaf Sayyid al-Shuhada in the best possible way. There was a little bit of a confusion in the beginning of this month as moon, sometimes favors us, sometimes it does not. And we still struggle to this day when it comes to the concept of moon sighting. Now, there are many variables in this. Of course, I don't want to take the entire khutbah explaining, nor do I want to say who's right and who's wrong. Because really, all of us are commemorating Ayyam Azah. It would be nice to have done it, aligned with each other on the same day because we live in the same vicinity. We can care less, what day is Ashura in the other part of the world. But it does really matter if it's different, for example, within one state or within one country. Of course, we also know that the different maraji, they have different rulings when it comes to moon sighting. For example, Marhum Ayatullah Hui, Allah Maqamuhu, his verdict was that if moon is sighted in one destination, then any place which shares partial night time with them, it will be okay for them to follow, regardless of the fact that they're on the west or the east of that city. So for example, if it's even seen in California for Ayatollah Khoei's followers, or even if it's seen in South America for the followers of Ayatollah Khoei, it would be the first of the month in the following day. But that is not the case, as the research grew after the demise of Ayatollah Khoei. The present and current Maraji, their research based on the astronomical data and as well as the scientific data, using the experts in the field who are providing guidance to them, because they're not experts themselves. They came to different conclusion that moon of South America, although it's the same moon, but it's the concept of seeing it, the concept of mushahida, the concept of ru'yat, which matters. So therefore, it has to be somewhere which is within your vicinity. Now, how did we, or the ulama council, that came to the conclusion that moon could be or would be applicable to us, and therefore we started the month of Muharram yesterday, Thursday being the first? They based it on the verified sightings, because there were people in Houston and Austin and Dallas who had seen it, and it was so widespread that there was no doubt about it. And secondly, the curve that NASA or other observatories present, it shows different curves for the moon sighting. Different color shades are provided for the ease of laymen like you and I. So for example, one shade says the moon could be visible if you use assisted eye, for example, telescope. Now, Ayatollah Khamenei says telescope, seeing the moon is okay. Ayatollah Sistani says no, it has to be done with naked eye. So there right away you have a difference of opinion between the two. So it is possible in one vicinity, the followers of Ayatollah Khamenei who use telescope to see the moon would go ahead and start the month the next day. But for the followers of Ayatollah Sistani who does not believe in the assisted eye, is it has to be done with the naked eye, his followers will not follow it or not start it. That's one thing. Second shade, for example, tells you that it could be seen if the conditions are perfect. What does that mean? That means if it wasn't cloudy, if it wasn't hazy, if the conditions were perfect and it was clear, then the moon could be sighted. That was the situation for all of the states from New York southwards. All of the states from New York to the west and as well as to the south, we fell under that shade which said that moon could be sighted if the conditions were perfect. And hence, when it was sighted in one of the localities that fall under the same shaded area, it was enough for the ulama council to declare that it was fine for all of us in this area, and therefore they announced Thursday to be the first of the month of Muharram al-Haram. Now the other places who declared that no, there were not any verified sightings, they may not have been satisfied with the sightings that were done in the Dallas or Austin or Houston area. That is up to their judgment. So they declared that it was not verified for them, hence they will not follow that, and they will conclude that Friday be the first. Today will be the first for them. Now what this does is that it's something which causes heartbreak and confusion, as well as disheartens people, the followers of Sayyid al-Shuhada, the mourners of Sayyid al-Shuhada, who want to commemorate especially the day of Ashur and the night of Ashur in congregation. If one party is commemorating it on one day and the other one is commemorating it on the following day, if it was being done in another country, we would not have bothered. We would not have cared, because that happens all the time. In Pakistan and in India, sometimes it's a different date. They are ahead of us, they are behind us, and so we don't really care about it. But when it comes to within one community and one state, for that matter, even within United States, if there are different sightings, that is understandable because it's such a huge place. But within one state or tri-state area, then definitely it is something which is a matter of, feeling sad about it, that why is it that we are divided in this reference. But the conclusion was that we follow this entity for the entirety of the year. When it comes to Eid, when it comes to Ramadan, when it comes to the month of Rajab, when it comes to the month of Shaban, we follow the same committee and we rely upon them. Now, all of a sudden, we say, well, no, we're not going to follow you because we don't trust the reports that you have received. Did we ever question them when they received the reports for the month of Rajab, Shaban, Ramadan this year, or the month of Shawwal for Eid al-Fitr, or for Eid al-Adha? No, we didn't question them. But right away, when it came to the sightings of the month of Muharram al-Haram, we questioned them. So that shows inconsistency on our part if we were to go ahead and question this entity, which is comprised of very credible individuals who don't just declare it based on their whims. Rather, they're spread out all over the United States, and they get in a conference call. They ask actively from the members to look out for the sighting if it's possible, and then report to them, and that's why they sometimes come out with the decision very late. And therefore, they were able to come out because, according to the data provided by the observatories, we fell under the shade where moon could be seen in the perfect conditions. Hence, it was seen in one of the localities which fell in the same shaded area. So they declared that it would be okay for us. This is just in a very simplified way to explain this to you. Now, to the decision where some went with Thursday and some went with Friday, that is again their own priorities, their prerogative, and you can't really convince anyone. So alhamdulillah, we were convinced. In fact, I think majority of the centers in the tri-state area, even in New York and New Jersey, and then aside from the tri-state area, if you look at all other places like Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Atlanta, Houston, all of Texas, all of Midwest, all of West Coast, California, they all began the month on Thursday. And for majority of United States, first was yesterday, and today would be the second. Now, of course, when you look at the moon outside last night, or if you saw it, or today you'll see that it is big. That does not really have any impact on it, although the moon was pretty big. It was more than 2 days and 3 hours old yesterday when we were able to see it. So there were some indications that what our decision probably was correct. But nonetheless, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the ibadah from those who started the month yesterday and those who are starting today. We're all united when it comes to commemoration of the shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And these differences should not arise to separate us, to disunite us. Yes, it causes pain to see that we are divided in dates, but that should not be the real cause of division within the community. We should not be pointing fingers at someone that you are wrong, we are correct, or we are right and you are wrong. This is against the spirit of the month of Azah, month of Sayyid al-Shuhada, month of Muharram al-Haram. In fact, we should all come together in the way we have always done so in these days, with khulus, with sincerity, with best of the intentions to go ahead and commemorate this month. This is the time when we pay tribute to the 72 companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that greatest shahada that was presented in the plains of Karbala. Not only Shias of Ahlul Bayt follow this, but Muslims all over the world, they commemorate. Maybe their way of commemoration is different than ours, for example. Their way of showing emotions and expression may be different than ours, but that is fine because it has to do with the cultural influence. And even non-Muslims, whoever came to know Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Hussain, they were influenced by him and they were inspired by him and they adopted the way of Sayyid al-Shuhada. So with that said, when others are taking opportunity to follow, then we should be in the forefront to display those features which we find in the Shuhada and the companions of Imam Hussain to be in us as well. There are three main factors in the Majalis-e-Azah. This is the season where we come together. We don't care who's inviting, we don't care who's not inviting, we don't care who's reciting and who's not reciting. Anyone who gathers on Farsh-e-Azah gathers for the sake of Imam Hussain. You don't judge people if they've never come to the masjid or the Imam Baragah all year long, but they show up, for example, on the 9th and the 10th. And there are some people. We don't judge them because who are we to judge? Maybe these are the people for whom the Quranic ayat says that the people who will be in the Jahannam, they will be saying, Maulana, la nara rijalan kunna na'uddu min al-ashrar. What is wrong? We don't see those people that we used to consider to be very, very bad. We thought these people were bad. They would not show up all year long, but only show up, for example, on Eid or on Ashura. Turns out that these people were better than us as far as their sincerity was concerned. Their one day of attendance was super sincere than our attendance all year long. So it is possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not looking for, who has more of the actions. As the ayat of Surah Mulk says,
الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That Allah created death and life so that He tests you to see which one of you have the best of the actions. Not ayyukum aktharu amala, that which one of you have a lot of actions, that you have, bucket full of actions and amal. No, that's not what Allah is looking for. Yes, you should be mindful of your obligations on daily basis, but ahsanu amala is something which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looking for. So it is possible that those who only show up for one night, their amal is ahsan in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are three groups which are part of this Majlis Aza. One group is the organizer, which we call Bani Majlis. Second group is the speaker, which is the Dhakir Majlis, and does not mean only the reciter of the Majlis Aza and the Masaib of Sayyid al-Shuhada. It includes even those who recite anything, poetry, Sos, Salam, Marsiya, Norha, all of those people are considered to be Dhakir Majlis. And then lastly, the group is Sami'in Majlis, those who are the listeners. So these are the three integral part of Majlis Aza. You have a Bani who invites, you have the Dhakir who recites, and you have the Sami' who listens, the audience, right? There are duties for each one of them. Bani Majlis controls in his or her hand the direction that they can provide to their ummah by delivering and bringing those people who deliver the right message, who don't have a personal agenda, and as far as explaining the shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada without causing disunity and discord amongst the people. So they have the ability to be able to bring those who are able to join the community. And therefore they should not be looking for what? That this person will fill the hall, this person will bring more people in, this person, for example, if we invite them, although they're a very good speaker, but it will not bring people in. That should not be the mentality of Bani Majlis. Bani Majlis should be looking after the well-being of the entire community. But the one thing that is sure for them is the khulus by which they invite someone. Second is Dhakir, reciters. Dhakir Majlis is also very important. He or she is the one, Dhakira or Dhakir, is someone who has the dua of Sayyidos, mother of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Right? In riwayat we have that the mother of Sayyid al-Shuhada remembers the Dhakir of the Masaib of Sayyid al-Shuhada in very noble words. Their maqam is mentioned by Janab Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. Just imagine what the maqam would be. So know your maqam, know your position, where you're at, where your du'as or you are being prayed for by the mother of Sayyid al-Shuhada. So you have a very high maqam, let alone what maqam the people are giving you. That is enough of your rank that mother of Sayyid al-Shuhada is praying for your well-being because you are the reciter of the Masaib of Imam Hussain. There is nothing above and beyond that. I like to quote that one of the famous reciters of Noha, I heard his word and he said this. He said, by reciting the Noha, by reciting the Majlis, by reciting the Sos and Salam and Marsiya, the least thing that you get is the fame. That if you become famous by reciting, which is inevitable, you will, that is the least you should be expecting from the recitation of the Masaib of Imam Hussain, in the form of Noha, in the form of speech, in the form of Sos and Salam. That is the least you should be expecting. That should not be the peak of your purpose of your recitation. That is the least is expected. Yes, because if you come in front of a public and you recite, people will follow you. That is the least expectation. There's other expectations that are expected from you. So therefore, it is important that the Dhakir keeps that in perspective as well. As an alim, as a scholar, as a Dhakir who is delivering the message, it is important the things that you deliver, you can shape and form the mentality of those who have come to listen to the Masaib of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And in between the Masaib, they're ready to listen to your wisdom. They're ready to listen to what matalib you have to give to them in between the Fadail and the Masaib of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Yes, so while keeping the Masaib and the Fadail, you go ahead and give them these tips and these wisdom that you have received from the Kalam of Masumin alayhi salatu wasalam. And last group is the Sami'in Majlis, those who are the listeners. And I'll draw a conclusion as to what is the area which all three of them are common, which is common between all three of them. those who are the sami'een majlis, those who are the listeners, they also play a very vital role in the commemoration of azab. Just out of joke, there was a person who held a majlis, and there were so many people that showed up. Someone in the audience said to him, mashallah, a lot of people came to your majlis. He said, if you do something with khulus, people show up. I said, mashallah, very good. Good answer. Next day, when he did the majlis, there was another majlis going on in the neighborhood. So the audience were split. Half of them went over there, and half of them came here. The same person went up to him and he said, what happened today? There are not so many people as they were yesterday. He said, if you do it with the khulus for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can care less how many or how few people show up. So in any way, this person said, I'm satisfied if a lot of people show up or if a few people show up, as long as the khulus is shamil hal. So same thing holds out for sami'een, the listeners, that a lot of time we say, oh, who's reciting? Oh, wo padh rahe hain, chalo phir chale jayenge. We'll go. We pick and choose. No, wherever there's majlis going on, regardless of who's reciting and who's not reciting, as long as the dhikr of Imam Hussain is going to be done on that first Azah, we should not be debating. Why? If we pick and choose that this zakir I'm going to go listen to and this zakir I'm not going to listen to, then you are going for Zakir Hussain and you're not going for Dhikr Hussain. While you should be going for Dhikr Hussain and you should not care for who the Dhakir Hussain is. Yes, there are preferences that if you have choices, these days, there are all the majalis are being relayed online. So you have great deal of choice to listen to whomever you want to. And I'm not saying you listen to all hundreds of the people that are reciting. That is not possible. You got your family, you got children, your spouse, you have your work, and you have to manage all of those things. So listen to the majalis. Make sure if you're listening from home, you create an environment in the house where you're not just laying down on the couch and in the bed and are listening to the majalis. No, make sure that if it is possible for you, dedicate a room for majlis azah. Decorate the room with the clothes and the black clothes, to show that it is the month of azah. If you have some banners, put them up there. If you have alam, put it over there. And then dedicate that room for your majlis this year, Muharram, when you cannot physically attend the majalis. So that your entire family gathers in that one room and you think and you feel the same ambience as you feel when you are attending the majlis physically. So one thing is common between all of three groups, the bani, the dhakir, and the sami', is the khulus and the sincerity, which will be reflected in the hereafter. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to be able to fulfill our duties that we have in front of Sayyidul Shuhada, especially in this month of Muharram al-Haram. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the teachings of Imam Hussain and his companions and their path of altruism and giving sacrifice, this ultimate sacrifice, that we're also able to play our role in this great tragedy. Inna asal hadith wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullah a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala ali Muhammad. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi allazi la ilaha illa huwal halimul kareem, ghafirud dhanbi wa qabilut tawbi wa huwal ghafurur rahim. Subhan